All right, welcome everyone to the Humanities and Arts presentation on our Drama and Theater department. Again, my name is Julie Lovelace from the admissions office, and I am going to turn it over to Patrick Crowe to share some information with you about drama and theater at WPI. Before I do that, I want to encourage everybody. This session is for you to learn what you need to know about drama and theater at WPI. So please take advantage of that questions and answers box and type your questions in there either as Patrick is talking or after he's done, and we will save plenty of time to get to all of those great questions. So congrats on your acceptance to WPI, and Patrick, I'll let you take it away.
Hi everyone, my name is Patrick Crowe. I am the technical director for WPI Theater. So I manage a lot of the spaces on campus, and I oversee a lot of the construction and the equipment side of things, but I also teach a few classes. I'm going to get into some really preliminary information here about WPI Theater, some of the spaces, clubs, and people, and then questions. That's really what I'm here for. You guys have specific questions, and hopefully get to them of those. So without further ado, here is our faculty. We are a small department here. We are part of the Humanities and Arts department. Myself as the technical director. We also have a variety of other people. I'm not going to go through and name them all, but just so you see some faces in there. But we are slowly growing there. We've recently added Laura Eckelman in design and management for WPI Theater. And it's very exciting. And then recently, Steve Taylor joined us in the playwriting side of WPI Theater, but he is also teaches in the business school, so a little cross-pollination there. So we have a large-ish list of classes and courses we offer right now at WPI Theater, and we've actually been growing them steadily over the last 2 years here. Some notable new additions we have as of recently. We have a sound design and Foley class, which will be happening for the first time next year. And we recently added our first lighting design class this year. But we have some of the basics, Intro to Technical Theater, which is one of what I teach, including the scenic design course and fabrication, which I also teach. And we have a bunch of literary-based courses in the world and modern drama, intro to drama, and some Shakespeare classes as well. We have also reinvigorated the playwriting class, which is something new and fun, which then feeds into our New Works Festival every year, which we'll talk about in a little bit. We also offer acting classes twice a year. So we have a variety covering a lot of the technical departments and additionally the literary side of theater. So you can kind of, whatever your interests lie, you can kind of hone them in with classes you can take. Additionally, we have academic productions. We do 2 a year right now, one in B term, which is a faculty directed show. Currently the head of the Humanities and Arts department, Dr. Kate Moncrief, directed this last B term show, and additionally a show last year as well. This year we just completed Silent Sky by Laura Gunderson. And then we have the New Works Festival called New Voices in D term, and that is student directed, and all the plays and monologues and pieces are produced by the WPI community, mostly undergraduate students. Some alumni and some community members get involved as well too. But they're written, selected by a committee, and then produced. This year we have 5 new shows, and that festival actually is happening. Opening night is tonight as of 5 minutes ago. So it is literally going on as we speak. Those you can get academic credit for working on these productions. You can do independent studies, or you can do your practicum projects, which if you're accepted to WPI, you probably know a little bit about, but you can do a practicum project on one of the 2 academic shows. And that could be any position, any role, acting, building, construction, or stage management. Anything you want to do, we can customize projects to your wants or needs. Also, you can do minor capstones in theater, and then eventually up to a major qualifying project. We actually have 3 MQPs this year, which is a pretty big number for us. So additionally, we have a very, very vibrant and large student-run organizations and student-run productions here at WPI. We have Mask, which is they do plays within the little theater space, which I'll talk about in a second. They do a show in A and C term that is completely student-driven. student directed, student produced, student everything. We come in and help as needed, but for the most part, it is driven by the club there. Additionally, we have Vox. They do musicals in Alden Hall, and they do a large musical in A term, and then usually a smaller show in C term and a D term cabaret, which they are working on in a few weeks. Additionally, we have a large student comedy groups here. There's four of them: Guerrilla Improv, Kilroy Sketch Comedy, Empty Set, and No Audience Necessary. And they do a variety of shows throughout the year. So, we have a lot of ways to get involved and participate in shows, whether it's academic, whether it's just for fun, whether it's some mix of both. Additionally, we have Alpha Psi Omega, which is the Theater Honor Society here on campus. And they put a show on for their members every year, which is a 24-hour show. So they start the night at 7 p.m. and they write, produce, build, hang all the lights, practice, and put a show on 24 hours later. It's a fun, crazy production with a lot of fun elements to it. So those handle the clubs on campus. We'll talk about the spaces a little bit here. Here's some photos from our little theater we call on campus. It's a black box style space. It's not a true black box. It does have fixed seatings, but it is very modular. It's a very intimate space with about 100 seats for a show. The lighting grid is about 11 and a half feet off the floor. And it's really, really, really unique space. Had a lot of challenges and a lot of benefits here where no microphones are ever needed on stage, and you can really get these really close and intimate scenes. We've sliced and diced that space up in so many different ways with different scenic elements and different lighting compositions that allow for really unique show from term to term. It's a great space. It is completely dedicated to the theater group, and there's a show in there every term, if not more than one. So it's heavily used. And if you do theater WPI, I'm sure you'll get to know it. Additionally, we have, oh, sorry, I skipped ahead a little bit here. This here are some of the photos from the little theater here. These are all different productions showing you just how versatile the space can be. This one right down here is actually from our most recent faculty production of Silent Sky, where we actually purchased and acquired theatrical projectors for. That really was a new sort of realm we're working in, is getting used to the projections. But yeah, so we've, the space can be really transformed into whole varieties of things. Next here is Alden Hall, or the Great Hall. Alden Hall is a historical building on campus. I believe it's the oldest building on campus, but don't quote me on that one. Your tours will handle those type of information better. It's a proscenium style space, can seat a ton of people. I think it's 1,400. But Vox does mostly their musicals in this space, and it's shared between many, many other groups on campus between your NSO introductions and varieties of events will happen in the space throughout the term. So it's a great space. It's super, it's a traditional proscenium style stage, which is really fun to work with. And here are some of the photos of productions that have been held within that space here. So really, it's cool to work in have both options on campus and different styles of theaters to be working in. So that's really all I wanted to really quickly cover with you guys. I know this was pretty fast and loose, but I really wanted to just give you a broad strokes, and really, if you have questions about WPI theater, please ask. This is where you guys have unattention for right now. So anything you want to know, please ask me.
Yes, and we already have some questions in the chat. And I encourage everyone who's here to ask more. So I think the first question I'm going to ask is actually the second question that we received, but I think it will be helpful for students to understand the framework of humanities here at WPI. So can I ask you, Patrick, to talk generally about what the humanities requirement at WPI is, and then how you can take theater classes to fulfill that?
Sure.
Great.
Yeah, so at WPI, you have your 3 projects, right? Your major qualifying project. Within your major, it's specific to what you want to do. You have your IQP, your interdisciplinary project, qualifying project, which is a world problem. And then you have your humanities and arts inquiry seminar or practicum. We do practicums within theater. So what that is a project specific to a humanities and arts discipline. And the way you sort of get it, you have to take 5 classes leading up to that, and 3 of them must be within the discipline you would like to do your project in. So we're talking theater right now. So you have to take three theater classes. Theater is a little bit different than everyone else, where some of those classes can be independent studies on productions, and that's totally fine. There's a cap on how many, but nitty gritty you'll get into when you just choose to come to WPI. And then you get an elective, and then you have a what they call a breath. So your breath, it has to be outside of the discipline. So history, philosophy, religion, something else that isn't theater. It's theater or music. So yes, to answer your question, you could take 3 drama theater classes as part of humanities art curriculum. You could actually take 4 because you have an elective that can be anything you want, and it can be part of production work or classroom work. Looking at the questions here about the classes and the courses, some are classroom oriented. Yes, we have a lot of the drama courses, which are more of the studies of plays and the actual theatrical works. Those are generally closer to a standard English class. You read some works, you discuss in class. The classes like I teach are a lot more hands-on. I teach the scenic design and fabrication course, which the class was the build team for the B-term production. Every class period, we spent time in the shop and in the theater space constructing the set. We had 20 students and we went to work every single day, or every day we had class, and we built, constructed, and painted. And then my D-term class, which is the Introduction to Technical Theater, is kind of a mix of both. There's some lecture material to cover some basics, and then there's a combination of activities in class and hands-on types of things. So I hope that covered everything there.
Yeah, great. There's another question about double majoring, which actually I'm interested to hear your thoughts on too. Can students double major in theater? Can they do a very technical degree like robotics engineering plus theater? Tell us more about that.
So double majoring in WPI is very doable. It does require a lot of planning on your end. Oftentimes you need to start prepping for that sort of in your first, second year to really make sure you have enough time in your schedule. So how it works is you get a humanities and arts degree concentrating in drama theater. So there's not like a specific theater degree. It's all humanities and arts with a concentration. You do have to do a second major qualifying project. All of the majors that come through WPI theater, I cannot think of one that has not been a double major to this day. Usually what happens traditionally, but not all the time, someone who's very involved and loves doing it, works on a lot of productions, picks up some extra credit that way, kind of works their way towards realizing they have a lot of that sort of credit built up and they can make it work with their schedule. So, but currently right now we have 2 students who are doing their major qualifying projects, and I think they're both mechanical engineers. I think robotics is probably a little bit more demanding with the schedule need, but I don't know that for sure. So, you'd have to do a little planning on your end for sure, but minors are very achievable. We do a lot of minors in theater for a lot of students who love it. I think this year we have 12 students minoring, which is a pretty big number. So if a major is just a little too short, a minor is very doable.
Great, thank you. And then the next question I see is a good one. To participate in theater, particularly technical theater, do you need to take classes or can you join without being part of a class?
You don't need to take any classes. WPI prerequisites are not a thing. They are recommendations here at WPI. So yeah, you can get involved if you want. The student club shows are, you can, on a student production in the Little Theater and with Vox, you can actually earn up to a half a class of credit for. But other than that, it's just whoever wants to get involved gets involved. They operate like standard clubs. Same with the larger scale productions. You can sign up and do them for no credit. You can do them for credit, but absolutely no class required to get involved. You will need to do some classes if you want to make it your project. You do need some level of classes for that, though. But yeah, just participate if you want to.
Great. I will encourage anybody to throw some more questions in the Q&A. But Patrick, I have a couple of questions of my own. So can you talk to me about what Lens and Lights is? Does that have affiliation with the theater department? Can you give an overview of what that organization is for the audience and then how it's connected?
Sure. Lens and Lights, or L&L as they're known, they are a student club first and foremost, and they operate as a gear house on campus, I'd say. So they own a lot of lighting equipment and sound equipment, and their members put on productions at requests of other clubs, student organizations, faculty stuff, everything, whether it's putting lights up for an outside concert or a dance party in Alden Hall, you can hire them. That's what they do best. They do the lighting and sound for the Vox musicals in Alden Hall, because Alden Hall does not have its own lighting and sound equipment. They don't generally work with mask outside, maybe a little bit of gear exchange sometimes, or with the theater productions, but a lot of the students are heavily involved in the theater groups. Currently, right now, both our lighting designers are very big members of L&L for New Voices. So yeah, they're a great club. They have a lot of cool equipment. If you want to learn some nitty gritty technical information about sound and lights, they're a great place to go.
Yeah, I see them everywhere. I feel like
Yeah, they are
they're at every
everywhere on
event.
campus. They if there is any event on campus that has any piece of technology associated that is not already installed, they're pretty much involved. So.
Yeah. We have another kind of technical question, and I can just say the participants want to know if the recording of this presentation will be available. Absolutely. We're recording all of the presentations for the virtual academic sessions. So anything that you couldn't fit in your schedule or anything you missed will be on our website for accepted students within 3 or 4 days of the presentation. I'm going to see if any more questions come in, but Patrick and I were chatting just before we started the session, and I found out that he's a WPI alumni. And so since we're talking to admitted students who are trying to figure out their college decision, can you talk about both your path to WPI, like why did you end up at WPI? And also it's interesting to hear that you're now working in the theater department. So what made you want to do that after graduation?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I found out about WPI kind of word of mouth when I was in high school through a teacher that husband had gone there. She was an MIT grad. He was a WPI grad, and they recommended it to me. And the more I looked into it, the more of this type of school I wanted to. As someone who's grown up dyslexic, I am very much someone who loves projects over paper. So that sort of mentality of WPI, very hands-on approach to education, touching and working on things was something I really looked for. And I went and visited the campus, and I really kind of fell in love with the school. And then while I was here, I'm someone who's always done theater. I did theater in high school. I did theater kind of all the time. And when I got to college, my first thing through the new student orientation is I went and I checked out what theater there was. And I worked on a show, and then another, and then another, and then I was double majoring. And so I do have a double degree from WPI in mechanical engineering and drama theater. So, and then when I left school, I kind of bounced around for a while. I did nuclear power. I did some food processing engineering. I worked on designing sprinklers for a little bit, and sort of just bounced around from a few places doing mechanical engineering work. And then coming back to an alumni event at WPI, actually, for the 24-hour show, which I mentioned earlier, a good friend of mine, Despina, who teaches more of the dramatic stuff, and she was saying how they were looking to hire someone to do some technical stuff. And I happened to be working a job that was more part-time at the time. And I said, sure, I could help out. And all of a sudden I had a contract and I was teaching courses, and here I am full-time now. So
I like that. Very full circle.
yeah.
All right, great. And then I don't see anything else in the Q&A. So I'm going to ask you one last question, which is, can you just share some of the recent productions that have come out of the theater department? What have you been working on in the last year or two? Ooh, and maybe how did you survive COVID with the theater department?
Yeah, so we so our big sort of faculty production this year, our academic production this year, was Silent Sky by Laura Gunderson, which is about astronomy and sort of the effects of some really big names in the astronomy world that kind of been forgotten, and how really one of the pioneers in actually measuring star distance is actually a woman, and history has kind of left her behind. So we did that show recently, and we added projections. That was a big technology push for us. And now we're doing this new student festival. But they've also this year, Mask did Small Mouth Sounds, and they actually did Macbeth. And then the Vox musical group did not have any term production this year due to some of the lingering COVID stuff, but they're gearing up to do their show for next year right now. And then over the pandemic side of things, we did a lot of stuff digitally, as many theaters across the country sort of did. We did some Zoom only theater. We did acquire a lot of sort of high-end camera work, and we began doing some camera sort of recordings of the spaces and then releasing it digitally. We did Alice in Wonderland that way. We did a whole variety of shows, and I'm blanking on some of them right now. We also did our new Voices Festival digitally. So the show was recorded in the space and with the casting crew like we normally would do, except we had cameras this time and no audience, and then sort of digitally put out there. But we did do a few shows that were Zoom only. That was a very interesting challenge for us and a lot of learning. I don't know, it's kind of inspired us to add a little more mixed media to our stuff. So we picked up some projectors and we have some camera equipment now that we sort of consider part of our normal stock and abilities. So
nice. And I just saw one last question pop in the Q&A. What are we thinking moving forward for this fall? Do we think everything's going to be kind of business as usual? I can talk about my perspective. You can talk about your perspective.
I mean, the short answer is I have no idea. But currently we are operating pretty close to at normal sort of capacity on campus. Everyone's tested weekly. Everyone is encouraged to wear masks, but it's not a requirement. And we're doing pretty well right now with that. Like I said, we have New Voices 39 is literally going on as we speak with a live audience and not digitally done. So, as long as the trends stay where they are, I think, yes, we'll be pretty pre-COVID time-like before, with some probably a little bit of flavoring from sort of our old path now, with probably some level of testing and some level of, extra security stuff that will probably linger for many years. But as of right now, I'd say possibly, yes.
Yeah, I feel cautiously optimistic as well. I think that the toughest year was the 2020, 2021 year. But since then, we've been kind of slowly returning to a more normal feel on campus. And, my fingers are just crossed that we all stay healthy and we can get back to going to theater shows and music performances on our campus, because I think there's a lot of great stuff happening.
Yep. Yeah, and the nice thing, especially about D and A term, is a lot of that stuff goes outside. The music groups did a lot of performances out on the lawns, the quad and stuff. Those were great, and it was really kind of a cool experience that I hope they continue with, even once they're past the COVID stuff. So, okay, well, I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope you come to WPI and maybe do some theater, or minimally come see some shows. Even if you don't want to get involved, we do a lot of cool stuff on campus, and very proud of the work our students do. So 7-week terms are short to put a full production on, and they do a lot of work in a short amount of time. So
yes, absolutely. So I am going to do my due diligence and put the link to enroll at WPI in the chat. If any of you are making your final decision and you have any lingering questions about theater, about anything associated with WPI, we want to hear from you. We're here to help you. This is what we do the whole month of April. So please reach out. You can always email us. I'll put the admissions inbox in the chat here as well. Give us a call. Come visit us on campus. We would be happy to chat. Oh, and thank you, Patrick, as well.
Yeah, if you have any questions for the theater faculty, this email goes to me and the other 2 faculty members and our student employees. So this is a great email if you just have some general questions or want to know more. So
great. Well, it was nice for me to get to meet you, and thank you for sharing your perspective with our prospective students. So I'll talk to you later, and thanks everyone for joining tonight. Bye.
All right. Have a good one. Bye.